Hello, guys. Hello, my dear friends. Please let me know as usual. Can you hear me? Can you see me well? Hello, Carlos. Greetings from Sweden and Germany. And you know, I love this very first seconds when we all meet and hug each other. And you tell me where cats are freed. You see, like I'm a super cat today. And greetings to Denmark and Belgium and Townsend and Memphis and Finland and Deutschland and the USA and Sweden and Argentina. Greetings to Argentina. Mi padre nació en Buenos Aires. Vancouver, Colorado. Yeah, I am all in leopard print. And Slovakia. It must be snowy in Slovakia just as it is in Ukraine right now. And Holland and Italy and Hungary and Germany and Canary Islands and Stockholm and the New York City Oblast and Texas and New Zealand, of course. And I want to thank amazing moderators who protect our community free from trolls. These are not just moderators, these are, first of all, friends. And thank you so much, Philip, the sheriff, and Rudy, and Martin, and Spencer, and Michael and Thomas. Not all of our moderators are here at the moment, but they are always with us. So sending greetings to the main kittens ever. You see, I'm even wearing this like kitten style sweatshirt. Thank you so much, William, for buying coffees and most importantly for your continued support and for friendship. Greetings to Boston and to Denmark. I have come across a funny joke today. If Denmark wants to protect Greenland, you have to rename it into Epstein Island. And that is the best way to make Trump stop talking about it. I'm sorry, I return back to a traditional format. But we do have some changes today. I've noticed that on the days when we have our live conversation, maybe it's too much content coming from me. And I thought it would be really interesting, a bit experimental, to combine our today live with something like a vlog. Greetings to Poland. I'm really near to Poland. Like I live in a region that borders with Poland, and I feel way better than those regions that border with Russia. I remember someone telling me a joke, I guess from Finland, that any democratic country that borders other countries and Russia, if had the choice, would definitely change that Russia neighbor. And I'm sure you agree. Remember to like our live because this helps other people join our community, learn more about us. And I thought that today there won't be a vlog on the channel after our live because we will discuss everything together. And maybe this will be more interesting because you will participate literally in my vlog and we will discuss it literally live as real friends because we know that this is just like the core of our community that always gathers for our lives. And as you might have noticed from the thumbnail, as you might have noticed from my title of this video, we are going to talk about like this Irpin Watch Bureau is an extremely important person, our digital advisor and guardian, and a lot of good things that he's doing for a channel, including our thumbnails. But thumbnails is just like 2% because a lot of good ideas. You know that recently when I received finally this silver plaque in our community tab, I've introduced you to the amazing people who help our community to be strong. Of course, these are our moderators, but this is also Watch Bureau, who is here from Irpin, and many of you know that we have a video on the channel about Irpin. And while it's one of those heroic Ukrainian cities that at the very beginning of the invasion demonstrated a lot of resilience and broke the plan of the failed blitzkrieg. Thank you so much to Blockade, and soon we will offer a lot of interesting things for sponsors of the channel, so stay tuned. We worked really hard on that, and I'm sure some surprises will be positive, but let's switch to this new format. And today we will begin with something like my traditional vlog. And I want to talk more about serious problems in Moscow. Honestly, that's the one of the best topics we can discuss, because with each month of this so-called special military operation, we clearly see that more and more problems happen in very different regions of the Russian Federation. The Russian Federation has a great potential to collapse one day, all because it is an extremely unnatural construction. But Putin always cared about people's opinion in Moscow, in St. Petersburg. These are big, rich cities who, we may say, set the agenda. And if he worries about any protests, about any dissatisfaction, it is definitely about people's attitudes in the capital or the capitals. I don't know if it's common for your countries. I've heard about some, but for example, about Scotland, Glasgow, and Edinburgh. In Moscow, we may say it's very much like that, that they have this like state capital, political capital, economic capital, and this would be Moscow, and something that they describe as cultural capital, and that would be St. Petersburg. So both of these cities are super important for Putin, and both of these cities finally in 2025 began feeling what war is. It was not our choice, to target some military sites inside Russia. It is a defense of Ukraine, but the more I observe this war, the more I realize that the only way to end it is to make Russians taste their own medicine. Yesterday, we've discussed these prolonged blackouts in Belgorod, in Oryol. Sometimes they even happen on the suburbs of Moscow. And this is what Russians cheered for until they tasted that themselves. But an extremely important plot is developing around Moscow airport. And finally, today on X, and you may follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Thread, Discord. The links are usually in every description of every video. But on X, there were tons of videos of very angry Russians stuck in the airports, demanding television to come, asking Putin what is wrong with our skies, because we have to name, and it kind of sounds a little bit brutal, but we have to name a spade a spade. Is there, is there a way to say this proverb differently? Because for me, a spade is not something like that, like eloquent. But anyway, thank you so much, Matt. And we have to begin with this like context, because it's super important. So we know that Russia is very big, and the Russian Federation is bigger, way bigger. And I think we will continue with interviews of people who work for the freedom of their nations now oppressed by the Kremlin regime. But already, I believe that our conversations introduced you to this understanding that there are Tatarstan, Chechnya, Dagestan, and many of them do want to become independent one day. So all the money, all the influence rotates around Moscow and St. Petersburg. Putin came from St. Petersburg. That is the city where he began building his career, political career, after being KGB FSB officer. But I totally agree with all of you who say that there are no former. Call it what it is. Thank you so much, Pat. And I know you didn't have time for tea. Maybe you should grab some. So anyway, call it what it is. I like it better than a spade. But there are no former KGB officers, and it will be very, very honest to say that now Russia is run by a mafia group, by FSB, KGB agents who united around Putin, and maybe it's later that he tricked them. Thank you so much, the Weasel. Thank you. And he began like his political career in St. Petersburg together with Mayor Sobchak, and his daughter is now a pretty famous so-called oppositioner in Russia. And we all know there are almost no real oppositioners in Russia. Deserves a separate topic, maybe on Anna Danilchuk channel that I will keep reminding you about. And I'm sure some of my guardians will drop a link to a new channel, relatively new channel. Thank you so much, Philip. Here it is. If you haven't subscribed yet, remember to join. The community is growing there, and it's extremely cordial and warm and intellectual. So anyway, it's Moscow and St. Petersburg that Putin cares about. It's Moscow and St. Petersburg that really rich, influential people live, businessmen, the so-called elites. But once again, that is not the good word to use when talking about Russia. And if Putin is ever worried about protests, about some dissatisfaction, about people gathering on strikes, it's of course in Moscow and St. Petersburg. And he was so worried about any accidents related to war happening in the cities that actually he started switching off internet. And we know that in 2025, Russia is #1 country in the world with internet shutdowns. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Thank you for your support and making our community stronger. And remember to like these videos. I always love it when we have an equal number of likes and people watching. That's truly amazing if we can reach such, level. So anyway, thank you so much for being proud of Ukrainians, and I'm proud of our community that is built around the idea that we need to defend freedom and we need to defend people who fight against these authoritarian regimes. And now my full support goes to people of Iran and those who support them. It's super important that they return back control over their lives and their freedoms. Thank you so much, Rudy. And don't let the US become a police state, as you've mentioned. It's super important. And like all the bad things, unfortunately, they happen really quickly. So people have to be very in control of everything that happens. Siniana, thank you, and happy to see you with us. So Putin was so worried about any war-related accidents happening in his capitals that for the first time ever, he switched off internet, mobile internet in Moscow before the so-called Victory Day parade. You know that Russians, unfortunately, began using the history of the Second World War, which they keep naming the Great Patriotic War, undermining the influence and importance of other allies participating in this war, supporting Russia literally with everything. And when he was preparing for that parade, inviting his friend Xi and so on, he was super worried that Ukrainian drones can show up, that Ukrainian drones can interfere into his parade. So for the first time in May 2025, they switched off internet in Moscow. And they began saying that it's the way to protect various sites and so on. But Russians, not all Russians are stupid. And they clearly understood that first, turning off, greetings to Washington State. First of all, they've noticed that switched off internet does not save Russian military targets from destruction. Thank you so much, Rudy. Thank you. Second, that they keep internet off way longer than any drone attack lasts. And with this war, the 21st century war, the technologies develop really quickly, and there are other ways apart from using internet or mobile connections to demilitarize various sites. So they see that Ukraine, that is being targeted so often, does not switch off internet. And even in times of this, thank you so much, JTK. During this really harsh blackouts, and you know that right now Kyiv, Dnipro, Zaporizhia suffers, we clearly see that mobile internet is available. And one of the first things that Ukrainian authorities want to return people is electricity and access to internet, access to communication, because that's vital for human beings to stay and to communicate. That's exactly what we need. I value our ability to speak, our ability to support each other, to provide with advice, to cheer up. So, because we're not hiding the truth, because we're speaking officially on internet, on Ukrainian news about the things happening, we don't have internet shutdowns. And recently, I had a vlog about these top countries suffering from internet shutdowns. Russia was number one. There was also Pakistan, Venezuela, but there was no Ukraine. Ukraine, a country at war, Ukraine that constantly suffers from electricity outages caused by Russia's attacks on our energy infrastructure, a lot of other problems, has normal internet because communication is important and we don't have censorship. We do not have restrictions for sharing information that is not dangerous. So in Russia, they first began doing it around this victory parade because Putin literally knew he is not able to protect Moscow from potential attacks of the Ukrainian drones, and people sharing that information, spreading it, letting other authoritarian regimes know that Putin cannot control even his own capital. And by the way, today on Anna Danilchuk channel that I keep advertising here, we will have an extremely important video based on my field work. I had to dive in the toxic internet of Russian military vloggers and collected a new, very fresh portion of fears that they openly share as they openly criticize Putin. And they mock the fact that he is absent from television. He does not provide any updates as Russia keeps losing its power as, like a super country once, and losing the shadow fleet tankers, losing geopolitical influence, not being able to help Iran, Venezuela. Thank you so much, Tehsin, and thank you so much, someone, for buying me coffees. Cheers, and thank you for making it possible. And yeah, thank you so much, Rudy, for reminding about our running NEFO campaign. And I'm amazed, I'm humbled and honored that we have such a generous and strong community. And thank you so much for supporting Ukrainian brigades with trucks and drones, with the best ever NEFO community. And people, this time it's a very personal campaign, perhaps with the best patches ever, Christmas patches, but it's about units from my native city, Lutsk. So thank you so much, and I'm sure soon you will see beautiful updates about that. That enormous mug is tea. I thank you for coffee, but 95% is collected, our NEFO campaign. So maybe, I don't know, we will even prolong it a little bit, but we will discuss that with NEFO team and I will let you know. Thank you so much, David. And let's return back to that internet that is turned off in Moscow. In St. Petersburg. In St. Petersburg, also later, I think it was in August. Thank you so much, Martin and friends. And I guess it was in August that they had to cancel Navy Parade. You know that St. Petersburg is close to the sea, it is a cultural capital of Russia, and they had a lot of warships that would come there that would demonstrate the strength of the Russian fleet. And uh, this summer they canceled it. Putin did not come in contact with people because usually he had that meetings with them, but he didn't. And they had some photos and videos from a yard that was totally closed. And they canceled that parade, first of all, because they have serious problems with their warships. Many of them were sent to the Russian warship Moskva to the bottom of the Black Sea, turned into a scrap metal. But second, these were security reasons. And perhaps since May, the Kremlin keeps switching off internet to prevent people from sharing information and sharing their war experience. Once again, please remember back in 2022, when Putin described the necessity for this special military operation, Russia was totally safe. There were no explosions. The oil refineries were working fine. They had a full Black Sea fleet, but he decided he wants to sacrifice it all for the sake of nothing. And he personally triggered the collapse of the Russian Federation. But at the beginning, all these problems were around bordering with Ukraine regions. Kursk, Belgorod, Lipetsk are perhaps among the very first Russian proper names that you've learned when we talk about their economy. And finally, there are a lot of problems in Moscow and St. Petersburg. But today we will concentrate on Moscow because I observe an extremely important shift. You know, somehow it is a part of Russia's philosophy that they like sacrifice, that they like suffering, and they keep talking about this. I'm suffering, but that's okay. We are Russians, we can suffer. I know very little nations that choose this as their like philosophy, because in the majority of cases people choose, well, to work hard and to change something, and that's what I respect. Here in Ukraine we do suffer a lot because of the Russian attacks, but we do not make suffering central, you know, to our uh, philosophy. We want it to be temporary. We want to win and to return back to the new normal. We want to sleep in warm houses. We want to travel the world. We want to develop businesses and so on. And Russians somehow accept this idea of suffering as central to their culture. And many of you who might have read their literature, watched their most popular films, they always rotate around their suffering. And at the same time, they are used to suffer from some things caused internally, like Putin destroying Russia's economy for the sake of war on the Ukrainian territory. And when war returns back to Russian territory, they are surprised. And it's so pleasing, honestly, to observe how differently they comment similar situations when people are without electricity in Kiev. They say, wow, that's because you have to listen to Putin just as we do. And then when they are without electricity, they get very angry. They cannot understand why. That is another really funny thing. When you read tons of comments of people in Belgorod who keep asking, why do we have these electricity outages? Why do Ukrainians switch our electricity? I'm sorry. I am sorry, but you forget about this extremely important rule of war. It always returns back home where it belongs, and we all know that is a Russian war. So if it's a Russian war, where should this war be? Right? In Russia. That is extremely predictable. And yes, what goes around comes around. And finally, this moment, it is back to Russia, it is back to Moscow. So today, I know, like already know that we control the skies above the Russian capital. That's the reality. That's the way we should name it. That's the way people must speak about it on global news because that's the reality. Now, the Ukrainian drone forces control the skies above Moscow and literally most of the European part of the Russian Federation. And I have already got used to that. You know, you quickly get used to good things. Thank you so much, Duncan. Thank you. So you quickly get used to that. And approximately 2 times a week, 3 times a week, they close dozens of airports in Russia. By the way, one of the arguments that proved that Putin made up that attack on Vladai during the negotiations process, and that were later proved by the American intelligence, by the European intelligence, and even Trump realized it was Putin's lies, the fact that they did not close airport nearby. Because every time drones travel the Russian airspace to demilitarize some legitimate sites, it is dangerous to fly. It doesn't mean that civilian locations are in danger, but the airspace is busy with these beautiful friends of the democratic people that come to demilitarize Russia and actually liberate it from its toxic imperialism that destroys it. So, and in that moment, you cannot fly. And I have already got used to the fact that they close airports, dozens of airports. I usually concentrate on Domodedovo, Vnukovo, Sheremetyevo, Pulkovo, and others that are around big cities. Pulkovo is the one that was not closed near Putin's residence, and then Domodedovo, Sheremetyevo. Well, you know these names. Those of you who traveled to Russia, you know that usually you come to these really big places and these really big cities. So it has become like a new normal for them. And honestly, I always love talking about it because this means a lot. This is the things that Russians cannot hide, that they often discuss online, that appears in their Telegram channels, on X, that they share with their neighbors because these are ruined plans. This is the inability to travel elsewhere. So it was always one of my favorite topics to talk. But then I realized that this happens really often. Thank God to the Ukrainian long range drones, to our ability to develop, to our strategy. It literally started happening a couple of times during a week. And I stopped talking a lot about that on the channel because these are not news anymore. Please, I'm sure that like we have a lot of friends who are here with us for a very long period of time who are watching my updates, and you see how quickly everything develops. Back in 2023, any explosion on the tiniest Russian oil depot was seen as a victory. We were so surprised that the Ukrainian drones can cross the Russian border and they did not manage to stop it, and so on and so forth. But now we destroy a number of oil refineries a day, and I don't speak about that because it's no news. Thumbs up for that. That is a huge change. And the same about this airspace, about Moscow. I want to talk about that. That's important, but this is not something extraordinary anymore. This has become the new reality, the new normal for Russia that began the war that it will have to finish on its own territory. Trust me, I sense it. And I stopped like reporting a lot because once again, it's not something extraordinary, it's not something unusual. And thank you so much for reminding about the merch shop. We do have a lot of good things and a special offer for calendars that remind you about the beauty of the Ukrainian nature and Ukrainian victories. You may check it, the links in the description. And do like this video so that we can have 1,000 likes. That would be amazing. And Nail reminds about that. So then during this holiday season, and you know that Russians did not want to switch to this ordinary calendar. They celebrate Christmas on the 7th of January. Thank God we already celebrated on the 25th of December together with most of people, Christian people. And anyway, this is a holiday season, and holiday season is busy everywhere. And I'm very grateful for the sanctions that work and that prevent a lot of Russia's war supporters from traveling the world and actually keeps your countries safe. But a lot of well off Russians want to spend these weeks somewhere else. They travel to Turkey, they travel to India, they travel to a lot of resorts, and maybe you come across them in your countries too. Uh, it's difficult. They don't always travel above the EU airspace, but they have like these loops. They may travel to some Central Asian countries and then around the world, or to Turkey and then around the world. So, holiday season is a busy traveling season. And by the way, being extremely big, Russia also needs aviation. They need to deliver a lot of things. They travel all around the Russian Federation, and it has a lot of time zones. It's the largest country in the world. So they are extremely, extremely dependent on the aviation. And today I will not concentrate on serious problems with their civilian aviation because of sanctions, inability to maintain parts that they need, they cannot get. Plus, Russians, announced that they would solve all of these problems solely with the Russian production, and they failed, just like they always do. They only speak about that, and they cannot repair their Airbuses or something like that. Thank you so much, Marcel, and thank you so much, Pat, for buying me coffees. Thank you to all the good patrons and sponsors of the channels. This is extremely valuable, and I cannot thank you enough. This means a lot to me, and this means a lot to all the team that now helps run two of these channels. So, you know that with this holiday season, a lot of Russians plan to travel from Moscow to different parts, either of the Russian Federation or the world. And once again, if you watch a lot of films, if you watch a lot of stories, you know that in general, all over the world, it's a super traveling season. And we may say that the expected number of passengers not just doubles, but perhaps triples or quadruples, or how do you say it, gets larger 10 times. Thank you so much, Sir Bedever. Thank you. So, all of these airports were full of people. And I also had this temptation to talk about that. But you may say nothing new. That's not the first time that the Russian airports, Moscow airport, St. Petersburg airports are overcrowded with people. That is already their new normal. That is something that happens very often. But then a beautiful thing happened. And today, like I'm a person that is not very good at self control on my social media usage. And I do read a lot of news in the morning. That is one of the first things that I do. Let me know in the comments, what do you do first in the morning? But I'm one of those who, like, checks social media, but for news, and of course for your comments below the videos. So I do it quite often. Breakfast, Philip, and tea. I hope not the Russian tea, but just the tea. And I coffee, tea and coffee, and I do it with just like play with cat. That's cute. Of course, you feel very differently if you begin your morning playing with your cat or you begin your morning reading X. But today I had a very, very, very good impression, because I got a lot of videos from super angry, sweaty, red Russians in the airports who began protesting. Until today, they were simply waiting for their flights, they were sitting near the walls, or they were driving back home. They were dissatisfied, they provide some comments, but they did not question everything. It was more like, everybody likes coffee and and news. So And then something changed. And finally, I've realized that it was like this beautiful combination of a lot of evil things that led to a lot of troubles for Russians. So, what happened? Uh, like, first of all, I saw, I think, like minimum 10 videos on X where these Russians were shouting at people working at the airport, and they were demanding explanations. They were saying like, why don't you tell us what the reason for the canceled flights? When will we be able to travel? And literally there were lots of airplanes that could not land, lots that could not ascend, and it was this huge collapse of traffic above Moscow. We are talking about hundreds of flights, and this means thousands of people. And if it lasts for a couple of days, we can multiply it by 10. And if it happens during this holiday season that is always extremely intense, active, crazy, we can again multiply it by 10. Thank you so much, Kunta. So this was super huge. But we also have to remember these are no ordinary Russians, not an average person that stays in his like badly heated Soviet style apartment. Those who travel now in Russia are well off people. These are rich people. Greetings to Anna from Holland. These are rich people. These are people who were able to afford a tour, a flight to, let's say, India. It's not cheap. And it's extremely more difficult in the situation with these international sanctions. So this means a number of combined flights, and many of these people are traveling with their families, with their children. So it's a big amount of money that people invested in that trip. Very often they may not be from straight from Moscow. It may be that they really had to travel from some other cities like Kazan. And by the way, Moscow airport like Sheremetyevo, Domodedovo, they are big. And thank you so much to Balkan. Thank you. You are amazing. And they combine this kind of flights. I don't know how do you say it, but like it's a it's an airport where you change your flights. For example, you travel from Delhi, you have a landing in Moscow, and then you travel to Kazan or you travel elsewhere. So it's interesting how you name that airport. Thank you so much, Ed, and thank you so much, OH6. So hub like something, so these Moscow airports, they are also hubs. So we may say they are not just crowded, they are overcrowded with no ordinary Russians. The ones that can pay, the ones that are businessmen, the ones that may have connections in the Kremlin, in some political parties, in some local authorities, and so on. Thank you so much, Paul. And all of these Russians all of those Russians were stuck. And they were stuck not for an hour, they were stuck not for 12 hours, but their flights were literally canceled. Their trips were canceled. Uh, they spend a lot of money in vain. Once again, these Russian businesses and traveling agencies, I'm like 100% sure they will not return back the money. They will say, like, it's your problem that you did not manage to fly out of Moscow. They are not talking about like this guarantees. They usually, like when they mock this Western lifestyle, they usually mock this kind of attitudes that we have some guarantees, that we want some insurance. They say it's not cool. So now they will enjoy their own attitude, and once again, I'm more than sure they will not return their money back just because they were stuck in the airport. And finally, these people may be cheered with, like some holiday celebrations, with some alcohol, with days that they spent in the airports with no explanation. They started protesting. And I have come across dozens of those videos where these very like red cheeked Russians saying lots of bad words in the address of the airport stuff. And first, they demanded questions like, why are these flights canceled? When will these flights be renewed? Will we be able to get somewhere? And please, thank you so much, Samir. Please remember, we are not talking about delayed flights. We're talking about canceled flights, and this demands an additional like. So, literally, this is the new reality of Moscow. The Ukrainian armed forces control their skies. This is what is the war of the 21st century. This is why we have to remain united, because Ukraine has the skills. And if Russia begins, and I'm sure unfortunately it will, hybrid attacks on some other countries, for example, in Europe, but they can do it literally everywhere using their countries, allies in different parts and continents. Like, they don't need infantry, they don't need tanks and donkeys as they use right now. That is a new approach of this war. Drones are enough. Drones can paralyze everything. And like you've experienced that in some European countries, unknown drones, I'm sure, like Russian drones, but sent from the territories of these countries. They can find people, they can buy people. It's always unfortunately easy to find some stupid or evil people that will agree for money to do something. But these airports in the EU did not work for a couple of hours because of one or two drones. And what Russia experiences now is hundreds of drones during hundreds of days and thousands of canceled flights. And already, I think more than 1 million of those who had their flights canceled or postponed because of the Ukrainian control over the Russian skies. So they kept asking this airport staff, when will we be able to travel? What is the time of a delay? But the staff could not give them any answers. The staff could not provide them with information. Why? Because the answer is beautiful. Because it is Ukraine who decides. It is Ukraine who decides when we take a pause and they can fly out of their stuffy Moscow airport. And this is beautiful. And this is beautiful because those people who kept asking these questions provided similar answers. They were saying, like, when will we be able to fly back? When, blah, blah, blah. We need to get to our family home. We need to get on our trip and so on. But they were asking about the Ukrainian drones. They were asking how many of them left. And they felt this anger, this panic. But together with this anger and panic, they clearly realized that something goes very wrong with the so-called special military operation, because this special military operation is no more just a Ukrainian problem. It is now a Russian problem too. And it's not just a problem of Kursk and Belgorod that for many people in Moscow seems like something very far away. They disrespect people who are not in the capital, who are not super rich. But finally, it's in their capital. And again, thank you so much, Francois. And again, please remember, Russians always pretend everything is okay. Their media, Putin, they keep providing this impression like everything is okay. But once again, I never wish you to experience that, but I keep giving you this as an example. Thank you so much, SC. I give you this as an example. Imagine a lot of flights canceled in your capitals during months because of some other country's drones. Would you say it's just like it's nothing? No, it would be all over the news. It would be discussed in every family. It would be seen as a war. But in Russia, they have this they have a Russian proverb, and I will say something in Russian now if I recollect that proverb. It says like something like good face during a bad game, хорошая мина при плохой игре. I need like, sorry. Thank you so much, Jerry. And hola. And it says like you have a good face when you're playing bad, like the game is bad. And that's exactly like something like a poker face, but I prefer poker face when talking about Budanov. But when talking about Russians, um, it's very classical for bullies. I don't know. We did not talk enough about this humiliation that Russian warships experienced when the very first ghost tanker, as they say it in the US press, was arrested by the UK, was arrested by the US, and they kept pretending like everything is okay. We sent a couple of warships, we sent a submarine to observe how that tanker was arrested, and they did nothing. And all over the Russian internet, they did have a lot of memes saying like, okay, why did we send a warship, why did we send a submarine just to watch what is happening to our tanker? But a similar situation is now happening when Ukrainian drones control the skies above Moscow, and Moscovites keep asking the staff of the airport when we'll be able to fly. You better call the Ukrainian drone forces. You call Madar, you ask him when will we be able to travel, because that's who decides. And that is a huge shift. uh, that is a huge shift in the course of this war. Ukraine controls the skies above Moscow, and not accidentally, not during one day or 1 hour. It happens for months, and finally it reached its peak. So, question number one that we have already discussed, they are asking when will we be able to to travel again, when our flights will return back to normal. And question number two, which I actually liked even more. And remember to like this stream. Let's have 1500. You've already taught me to pronounce it 1500 instead of 1500, because in the Ukrainian language, we never say 1500. It's something very unusual for Ukrainian to pronounce. And thank you so much. I do love talking extemporaneously. I said like spontaneously, and then I began reading this word, and I like failed extemporaneously. So anyway, that's a mixture of live and vlog. I thought it might be an interesting format. Thank you so much, NW Green. So 15, yeah, okay. So, but let's make 1,500 or 1,500 or whatever you prefer. So, another phrase that kept repeating from video to video of these very dissatisfied Russians that I seriously loved was their request: can we get television here? Can we get television here? We need someone to show the sufferings of these Moscow residents who wanted to travel the world but did not manage. And it's so hilarious because, like, we know you never see the truth on the Russian TV. And the fact that people are boiling, that people are so angry that they are not afraid to demand this, it's awesome. And once again, I need to remind you that these are, oh, thank you, Oms. That's actually funny. We should start this hotline for Russians in the airport that you can call Ukrainian drone operators saying like, I'm sorry, I don't want to interfere. I know you're working to demilitarize us. Thank you for that. How many more hours we have to remain patient, waiting for an ability to travel to Iran? To get their Khamenei out of Iran, because like a nursery of dictators is now in Moscow. Assad is there, Yanukovych is there, Maduro did not manage to reach Moscow, and now maybe Ayatollah Khamenei will travel there. together with his goal that, according to the reports, they are already taken out of Iran, which is a good sign. So, these angry, dissatisfied, rich Russians, sweaty in that airport with ruined holiday season, because when they cheered for war in Ukraine, they did not expect it would come back to not just bordering with Ukraine regions, but literally to their capital, literally to the airport they wanted to travel from. They started demanding television. That's so funny. Like, they will tell the truth on the Russian television. Like, they will let know anything. Like, and it's super funny. And you could like see people not hiding their faces when they demanded this. They stopped hiding their faces. And it's interesting because this demonstrates that they are not afraid anymore. By the way, Putin's weakness was super exposed these months. And once again, I invite you to Anna Danilchuk channel. Our community is growing there, and today in the evening, I will share one more longer video where we discuss these real worries of the Russian vloggers. These are new ones, not the repetition of the previous ones. Putin provides them enough of reasons to be super worried and super concerned. And one of them is the fact that superpowers stopped respecting Russia. Superpowers stopped thinking about Russia as a great country because Putin did not manage to back up his friend in Syria, to back up his friend in Venezuela. He does not interfere in Iran. He does not have money. He does not have forces. He cannot get like 2% of the Ukrainian territory. Let's be realistic. He does not control the borders of Russia. He does not control the airspace above Moscow. And the fact that like a huge Russian Lukoil asset was nationalized in Iraq is another proof that Putin is losing his grip. And the fact that he's losing will make his own countrymen, Russians who were traditionally afraid of the Kremlin goblin, feel fearless. And that's exactly what I noticed today in that videos. They did not hide their faces. They did not hide their faces. They were not afraid to speak. Thank you so much, Peter, for your continued support. Thank you, Peter. And we have 1,524 likes. This is amazing. Thank you so much, dear people. So, this is super important, that the fact that Putin loses control, that he's not able to back up his authoritarian friends. Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you, Gary, and greetings to you. So, like, his loss of this geopolitical influence has very fast influence on his problems inside Russia. And the fact that a lot of these rich, dissatisfied Russians that were stuck in super stuffy airports with ruined plans, with the need to explain to their families that, sorry, we're not traveling to Sri Lanka, they started demanding the television. And like the moment the television comes, these problems are exposed. And you cannot pretend that everything is fine. It's just okay. Like, we have hundreds of Ukrainian drones every day in dozens of Russian regions. That's just the plan. Everybody knows it was not the plan. The plan was to take Kyiv in 3 days and to continue to other former Soviet republics. That was the plan. The plan was not to stop flights above Moscow. The plan was not to lose oil industry. The plan was not to destroy Russian economy. The plan was not to kill 1,200,000 Russian soldiers. The plan was very different. And the only fact that they have really strong censorship in Russia, that they shut down internet, that they have all TV channels controlled by the Kremlin and propagandists paid by Putin, that is something that helped, keep it a secret, hide it. But at the moment when there is too many accidents happening, too many Ukrainian drones doing important demilitarization work in very many different parts of the Russian Federation, it becomes impossible to hide it. It becomes impossible to pretend that everything is okay. And I'm sure, as with all authoritarian regimes, it will collapse very quickly. Greetings to Ireland. We need Iran to become free. It's not the Iran that falls, it's the regime that falls. And Iran liberates itself. And Iran, right now, is not an enemy to Ukraine. It's the regime that is an enemy. It's the regime that suppresses the people of Iran and builds drones to target Ukrainians. But the moment the regime is done, I'm sure the country will return back to normal very quickly. They have very beautiful, very rich history and good traditions. Oh, thank you so much. That's because I'm on top. That's because I'm in leopard sweater, and also because I've decided to combine a vlog with our live, and maybe that is a good like format. Remember, there won't be a vlog on the channel, but our live will remain available, and also a new video will appear on Anna Danilchuk, where we will talk more about this like toxic insights from the Russian vloggers, which expose that Putin is losing control, and thumbs up for that, because it's literally worth it. And do share these videos. This is super important. This is indeed very important that more people can get access to this truth, because once again, Moscow is really good at disguising everything, at hiding the truth and paying influencers, at giving this Moscow-centered propagandist view and offering it to various TV channels, to various vloggers. I am not speaking about I'm not saying like that everything is okay in Ukraine. I'm not saying that the Kremlin will fall tomorrow. But I'm talking about these real things happening to Russians, and you may check it. You may check it on different social media platforms. Thank you so much, Martin, and greetings to Switzerland. Oh, we have a lot of snow. In my native town, right now, we have so much snow. It was very difficult for me to get to even to the gym. Oh my God, Leopard is silent, but I like Leo. Greetings to India. Greetings to India, and thank you for watching us. I think it's super important that people in India know the Ukrainian perspective. And the more videos you share, the more you subscribe, the more it helps to spread the truth and to stop this Russian BS. So people began demanding that they show this on TV, that they report about their sufferings, that they talk about the problems they now have in the airports. And of course, they did not get an answer. But this is super beautiful. As the more people protested, the more people were shouting. And these are Russians. They use a lot of bad language when they are dissatisfied. It's all over X. It's everywhere. Greetings to Brazil and greetings to Finland. And yeah, and it's kind of it became very tense. And there were some fights with the staff of the airport. So at a certain moment in time, they realized that the situation is extremely dangerous, and the number of people that stayed in that airport, that were stuck, kept amassing. And it was just like they kept coming, and the flights kept being delayed, and they have come up with a solution. And it's just like so funny that in Russia, once again, they don't care about standards of living. Just imagine that Putin and co invested all that, and I'm not afraid to say hundreds of billions of dollars into their own country. It would be just like super cool. It would definitely change a lot, because we're not talking just a couple of millions. We're talking about billions, billions, billions of dollars that they decided to burn, destroying Ukrainian kindergartens. That's insane. That's super primitive. That's very evil, not just to Ukrainians, but even to their own Russians. So I'm sure that if you discuss life standards, standards of living with an ordinary Russian, it would be very difficult for him or her to continue these conversations because it has never been a priority in Russia. Somehow they believe that suffering makes you cool, not the fact that you live a comfortable life and you kind of give a better future to your children. No, you teach everyone to suffer. Thank you so much, Carl. That's, I don't know how to change that. It might be one of the very big problems, one of the very big reasons. Greetings to Alaska. They could definitely have a way better economy and a way better business and a way better streets and more toilets in their flats. But once again, this idea to think about an individual, to think about a person, to care about a person is seen as weakness in Russia. So to take care about your customer is not a priority, and it's not just a norm. It's just like, oh, you care about those little people. That's why many of them, when asked, do you like that? Do you like this? You might have noticed during the street interviews and so on, lots of Russians say this very wrong phrase, very evil phrase: we are small people. I have never heard Ukrainians saying that. I have never heard that from any other um, person, just like, we're small people. What do you mean? Why are you small people? And they say, like, you literally cannot change anything, no matter what you do. In Ukraine, we have a totally different approach. And that's, by the way, what broke Russia's invasion and their blitzkrieg at the very beginning, because very small people, very little people, just like ordinary, very ordinary people, small, young, old, uh, they stopped tanks. They stopped Russian soldiers. They were proud. They were confident of themselves. I think that this, yeah, medieval mentality, that's true, Holmes. And I think it's super, super important. And greetings to Wales, beautiful country. And I think it's super important to have dignity, to have self-respect. It's super like important for any nation to be successful. And somehow these hundreds of years of oppression, tyranny, made Russians small people, as they describe themselves. And the very fact that they do not care, about the quality of life, the standards of life, um, the fact that, like, your client is important, and if you want them to continue, I don't know, flying your airlines, you have to be at least polite, you have to provide some answers. And once again, if they were not that fake, if they were not lying constantly, it would be easy to say that, our enemy drones are in the airspace. That's what we know. That's why you cannot travel, but let's talk with your travel agencies or with your air flight companies. Maybe we can change your tickets or we can provide you a hotel. That is not the Russian approach. The Russian approach is to think how to make the whole picture less dangerous. So if the Russian TV comes, they don't see these super aggressive people talking negatively about the Kremlin dictator. And they have come up with an insane, literally crazy idea. So greetings to Georgia, free Georgia. We stand together with people of Georgia. We know it's really difficult now, but we have no other way but to remain united and to defeat the Kremlin. So they have come up with this totally, totally, totally crazy idea, uh, remember the context. A lot of angry, sweaty Russians who spend days in the airports without any explanation, without any promises, quarreling with each other. And as the number of canceled flights grows, the number of passengers who did not get on board of their planes also grows. And they are afraid that it won't be a cheetah shirt. I don't know. Is it a cheetah shirt? I thought it's leopard without or, but they decided that they need to solve the situation somehow. There are too many people, not enough space in the airport, and oh my god, I need to sip some tea. And they decided to send some buses. And in Russia, they don't have money now because all of that money are spent on the destruction of the Ukrainian kindergartens. Like Oreshnik is super expensive. And if you saw the place from which they targeted empty Oreshnik on Lviv, you would definitely understand. Thank you so much, but my birthday is in August, so please wait until then. Thank you so much, Zach. So they don't have money literally on anything, on the repairs, on the toilets, and so on. And they had to get some buses. So the buses they have got are very bad buses. I know what I'm talking about because like I lived my life as a child in 90s where we had that heritage of the Soviet era, and it was a very like sad and poor period, and we had the leftovers of that um Soviet autoprom for a very long period of time. So they sent a lot of oh, greetings to Cherkasy. That's beautiful. If you're now there, please stay safe, and that's important. um yeah, that's a good question. Who is buying tickets on Russian airlines? It's super dangerous to fly them with their low maintenance. But anyway, so they sent a lot of these poor Soviet style, not Soviet style, but actually Soviet buses to these airports. And you keep in mind that people who now travel in Russia are people who have some money, not the ones Putin sends to meat grinders and seduces with now halved payments, like way smaller payments that at the beginning of invasion, but still to join the army. These are more or less rich people, more or less well-off people who have cars, who like want to travel, and they pack. And I'm sure they make these people like they don't ask them. So they pack these people in these Soviet buses without their bags, without anything. I'm not sure they even ask them about, like, yeah, Russia, YouTube, and Instagram doesn't work. Why? Because, and internet often doesn't work because they want to hide the truth from the world, what's happening inside, and it's boiling inside. So they put these people in these buses that are small, that are bad for them, without their luggage, without any explanation. And once again, I'm sure they are trying to hide everything from any potential television coming, from things like that. And these people record videos. They become furious, not just like angry. And they describe these buses that they smell really bad, that it's just like super the smell of, I know, these old Soviet buses, they gave you a very, very strong feeling of petrol. You can smell petrol. And if you get sick when driving, it's just like way worse. And people, it's not an end. The situation is getting worse. Maybe bags are stolen. Maybe they are lost. Maybe some of them took this. Buses took this luggage with them. Diesel, right? Perhaps like it smells like unforgettable. So they maybe some of them take these bags. But anyway, imagine those people who imagine themselves somewhere on the beaches of Sri Lanka, or maybe United Arab Emirates, who bought these cruises, who booked the resorts, who got some beautiful like who got some beautiful hotel rooms, who spent thousands of dollars in the collapsing Russian economy to spend this holiday season outside Russia, and they are stuck in this Soviet diesel smelling buses with no explanation. And it seems like some of them wanted like to okay, some flights, for example, were transit flights and they had to travel to some other Russian cities. And they decided, as they cannot fly these people to their other, like cities, so they can actually drive them there. Thumbs up for that. It would be amazing if we could make 2,000 likes. Can we do it? That would be super cool, and that would be a demonstration that, like, we do love the fact that Ukraine controls the skies above Moscow. I kind of like it. So just imagine, just like to make the whole story worse. So they put these people in the buses without their bags, without any explanations, and they tell them, you wanted to fly from Moscow to Kazan, for example. But as the Ukrainian drones, they are not saying it, but everyone understands. But the Ukrainian drones control the skies over Moscow and also keep burning our oil refineries, military sites, and other stuff. We cannot tell you when will this end because we do not control it. It's just like it's coming from Ukraine, from Zelensky, from Madar. Like, it's not Putin who decides. And we are going to drive you to Kazan. And here we come back to this very important aspect that the Russian Federation is very big, which gives it a great potential to collapse one beautiful day. But right now, they need to travel all that territory. And that size made actually the country, the Russian Federation, way more vulnerable to the drones, to the air defense, because the country is so big and they don't have enough air defense systems. We see that. It's the truth. It's not me being overexcited. It's the truth, because once again, the Moscow regime never planned they would need to defend locations on the Russian side. And now they have already adapted to that. We do have drones that reach military sites in Kazan, in Tatarstan, but just imagine, it is a really big distance from Moscow to Kazan. Thank you so much, Artur. Maybe you can check, I don't know, someone, or I can check, but these are hundreds of kilometers from Moscow to Kazan, and they put these people who have their plans ruined, who have their money lost, their luggage lost, their holiday promises destroyed, who finally realize that war is not that good if it's not in Ukraine, if it's in Russia. And they realize that every day there are more and more regions that are affected by this war. And every Russian pocket thumbs up for that too. Every Russian pocket is also affected by this war. So they wanted to enjoy maybe that last vacation in peaceful, so-called peaceful Russia. And they are stuck in these stinky Soviet buses, and they promise that they will travel to Kazan. But people, it even gets more beautiful because, and we know that in Ukraine too, that it is super snowy. I know, it's icy in Britain, it's snowy in Poland, it's snowy in 793 kilometers. That's a lot. If okay, anyway, it's more than 700. It's almost 800 kilometers away from Moscow. So just imagine this trip from Moscow to Kazan in a bus from 60s or 70s that smells diesel, instead of your vacation in United Arab Emirates. But it's getting even better, people. So we have a lot of snow. We have electricity shutdowns, but we care about standards of living. That is why we are successful. We were successful, and this is what actually, though, this is what actually made. This is what actually made Russians so envy us that much. Like, they envy us, they envy Georgia, they envy Lithuania, because like they realize somehow we succeed and we provide better standards, and that's why they stole sneakers and they were so devastated. I mean, Russian soldiers, when they saw Ukrainian middle class in Irpin, for example, they were devastated with what they saw, with how people can live. And our background was similar. All came out of the Soviet Union, but somehow we managed to build a country and they kept destroying the country. So they decided to destroy ours, not to feel that envious. But they put people. So even with this intense electricity outages and like the weather forecast is really bad here. In my native town today, we had like minus 12 Celsius. And they say that on Wednesday it may actually be minus 27 Celsius. I don't remember such frost since I were at school. And 2000 likes. I love you very much, people. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, my beautiful friends who cheer for that, and my guardians and moderators. Thank you, friends. Thank you so much. So the weather is super like wintry. I do not remember such weather for a very long period of time. And if you follow me on Instagram, for example, I shared a story of how I tried to reach my gym. It was difficult. But all the highways are clean here, with active war, with Russian missiles and drones, with electricity outages in many cities, with schedules for electricity, with frost, with slippery weather. We have clean highways and people can travel from Lviv to Kyiv, from Kyiv to Kharkiv. It's possible. And in Warsaw, it's -7. Yeah. So anyway, it is cold, and it's similar weather conditions are in Moscow, and they may be even worse because it's colder in Moscow than it is in Kyiv. And they had a lot of snow. And as Russians officially joke on their social media, they spend all money on war with NATO because they cannot say that it's Ukraine that destroys them. NATO didn't even start, and they spend all of the money on this war, on the destruction of Ukraine, and they have no money left on the cleaning of their highways. So there are tons of videos of Russians trying to dig out their cars. But all these, roads that are stuck, that are covered with like 100, well, like 1 meter layer of snow. And greetings to Tuscany. And please follow Philip's advice and subscribe to Anna Danilchuk, because a new interesting video will appear there, and I will share some of my investigations into the fears and dissatisfaction of the Russian vloggers that they openly share. So just imagine, they have all these roads in Moscow full of snow, and if Moscow is blocked by snow and they don't have enough money to clean it, they don't have enough people, perhaps those people who are performing such jobs are out on the front lines. Thank you so much, Sir Bidever. And they have tremendous problems with that. And they have sent them to front lines, and they spend all the money on tanks and missiles instead of this road cleaning vehicles. I don't know what's the name for that. And that's a good question. Why don't upper class Russians party in Cuba? Why don't they like it? Hotels in Cuba. Thank you so much, Carl. So, people, just imagine. So all this Moscow is blocked with snow. And if it's that bad in Moscow, you can only imagine what is the road like to Kazan. It does not exist, first of all. It does not exist because it's all covered with snow. You will not find a route there. And we have already snow plows. Thank you so much. So we already know that like the roads are slippery, the roads are all covered with snow, and we have those angry Russians that did not manage to fly out of the airport, that have their vacations ruined, that have their luggage lost, that have their trips cancelled and money they spent on hotels lost. We have them stuck in Soviet buses from 70s that smell diesel without any explanation and a promise. Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you so much, Stasa. We have them all in that buses heading nowhere, stuck in the middle of White Road, somewhere in Moscow or near Moscow or something like that. This is insane. This is insane, and we have to just like understand that such things are really difficult to hide, because we are not talking about one person, we're not talking about two persons, we are already talking about hundreds of thousands, maybe even close to a million already, if we count how many airports are constantly closed in Russia and how many flights are cancelled. And this happens for months and months and months. And we may say that 2025 was super successful here. We may say that it was just like a real breakthrough. And I'm like concentrating on Moscow, but I'm sure way worse things are happening in smaller airports. And people in Belgorod, 500,000 without electricity. And if something similar happens here in Ukraine, we back up each other. We share generators, EcoFlows. We were trained by Russians for winters, and it didn't break us. It actually led to the fact that we share this experience with Russians now. Thank you so much, Mr. Roberts. So they wanted to break us, but in the reality, they failed. And we keep being successful with that. We remain resilient. We know that frosts will end, and we have our country. We respect standards of living. We do not switch off internet. We have allies who help us. We speak the truth. We respect each other. We want to return back our lives, and we know what we will do. And Russians, they don't know what can they do without Putin. What can they do without this war? They do not have any national plan, any vision apart from destroying neighboring countries. What kind of pleasure or success this brings to a normal person? Nothing. And thank you so much, sir. And this brings us to this extremely, extremely important conclusion that Putin definitely lost control. And people around him see that for a longer period, but finally, ordinary, as Philip taught me, apolitical Russians uh, see that too. Because the number of problems, the number of accidents, the number of canceled flights, the number of destroyed plants, the number of explosions, the number of flats without electricity is super, super big. It's just like a threshold or something, that even with all this apparatus of lies that the Kremlin had for decades, they cannot hide this truth anymore. And what I've noticed in those angry videos from the Russian airports, it's not just the anger, it's not just the number of people, it's not just the inability of the staff of the airport to solve problems, putting people first. Thank you so much, Doodle Fisher. But it is perhaps the loss of fear. Many people recorded and shared these very angry messages asking for the TV to come and to show what is happening, asking questions, asking Putin what's wrong, why can't we fly out, what do Ukrainian drones do in the airspace of Russia. Thank you so much, Stasa. And they were not hiding their faces. They were not hiding their faces, not because they are that brave, but I think they are, they sense this weakness of the collapsing dictator. They see how fragile his regime became. They see that he does not command problems during these weeks that he has, about seized tankers, about inability to protect Maduro in Venezuela, about the lost Lukoil assets in Iraq, and many more. And if you want to know more, where is Putin these days? We don't know, and he did not share that many videos as he previously did during the holiday season. He was briefly seen in a church of the Russian military, surrounded by the military because he fears people, and he was super dissatisfied. He was just like very nervous on his face, and this happened during this Maduro fall and the seizure of the tankers. And if you want to dive deeper into this extremely important moment, do subscribe to Anna Danilchuk and check the video that will appear later on the channel. And I think that all of these bullies and millions of Russians supported this bullying of smaller countries, of former Soviet republics. They sense this weakness. They sense this weakness of Putin, and that is the reason why they do not hide their faces anymore. They are not afraid of him. They demonstrate this dissatisfaction, and soon there will be millions. Unfortunately, not of those who protest against the Russian war crimes, but of those who are dissatisfied with their destroyed by failed blitzkrieg lives, businesses, income, ability to travel, and so on and so forth. Russia is the weakest ever, Russia is the poorest ever, and China sees that, and other countries sees that, and I do hope that our allies also see that. And now is the moment to deliver justice to Putin and to teach a lesson to other authoritarian leaders that were previously inspired by Putin's criminal activities. They saw that, oh, no one can protect international order, we can do whatever we want, we can disrespect smaller countries, but Ukraine is teaching them a lesson. You, those who support us, also teach them a lesson. It can change a lot. We can achieve a lot. Our task is to remain confident. You know, we don't have a lot of electricity here. It's super cold, but no one in Ukraine wants to surrender. So do not push us. Do not give up yourselves. Remain determined, and we will see the collapse of the Kremlin regime together on this channel. And that will be a very beautiful life. And I promise you that I will drink champagne online, even if it's against the YouTube policies then. Thank you once again for spending this evening with me. Remember to watch a new video that will appear on Anna Danilchuk channel. No vlogs here, but you can rewatch this video if you haven't. Thank you so much, Trev. Greetings and hugs to you. It's not all cold inside my flat. In the Western Ukraine, we don't have a lot of problems with electricity, so my heating is working and I feel pretty okay. But I do feel bad about people in Zaporizhia, people in Dnipro who have very little electricity, but our electricians are heroes, and they actually do unbelievable things in very harsh climate conditions, dangerous military conditions, and they return internet, electricity back to people because they are not afraid of truth. They are not afraid, they are brave, and that is an inspiration to me, and I hope all of you. Thank you for all the coffees that you bought. Thank you for becoming sponsors and patrons of the channels, helping me film more. That is a blessing, and I'm forever grateful for that. And soon there will be more interesting things for sponsors of the channels and patrons. Follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Discord. Anna Danilchuk channel is something that you need in your life if you love longer conversations. I even allow you to listen me when you fall asleep. I do have some favorite YouTube channels that I turn on when I want to fall asleep. check it. You may like it. Also, I love my amazing friends who also protect us from trolls. Yes, I'm talking about Philip and Martin and Spencer and Rudy and Michael and Thomas. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pat. Thank you for all the advice that you provide in comments. I always read them. Thank you for the support of a NEFO campaign. Soon you will see how your support transforms into amazing things that help us implement the only working peace plan, and you know that is to defeat and demilitarize Russia. Thank you so much. Love you very much. United we stand. Slava Ukraini.